In the sprawling, sterile corridors of St. Jude's Memorial, the hospital blueprints conclude abruptly at basement level 3. Beyond that point, the official records are blank. Yet, for those who work the graveyard shift, the silence is occasionally broken by a mechanical ghost. It is a space where logic fails and history is erased. In the early hours of November 14th, nursing student Ava Reynolds volunteered for the overnight rotation. The hospital was tomb quiet, save for the rhythmic, lonely hum of the ventilation system. She moved through the halls like a shadow, unaware that she was walking on the edge of a forgotten abyss. The air felt heavy, as if the building itself were holding its breath, waiting for a witness to step into the dark. At exactly 2:58 a.m., she stepped into the central elevator, intending to reach the basement supply room. She pressed the button for B3. The doors slid shut with a heavy, metallic thud that echoed in her chest. As the car began its descent, the light for B3 flickered and died. Suddenly, a new, amber-colored button illuminated on the panel. It read, S9. Ava stood motionless, her finger nowhere near the controls. Her heart hammered against her ribs as the elevator continued downward, moving past the maintenance level, past the structural foundation, and into a depth that should not have existed. The air grew frigid, smelling of ozone and wet ash. The laws of physics seemed to dissolve as the floor indicator spun into the impossible. Then, the lights cut out entirely, leaving her in a crushing, absolute darkness. The elevator lurched to a halt, the cable groaning like a dying beast. When the doors hissed open, they revealed a long, dimly lit hallway. It was a hospital wing, yet it belonged to a forgotten era. Thick, orange rust crusted the walls like dried blood. Decaying wheelchairs sat abandoned in the center of the corridor, their wheels slowly turning as if recently vacated. Patient room doors stood slightly ajar, swaying in a phantom draft that carried the scent of old medicine and rot. Ava stepped out, her flashlight beam cutting a fragile path through the gloom. Dust motes danced in the light like tiny ghosts. The silence was absolute, a heavy weight that pressed against her ears. She was a mile beneath the surface, standing in a place that had been scrubbed from every map, yet the architecture felt hauntingly familiar, like a nightmare she had forgotten. Suddenly, an overhead speaker crackled with violent static. A distorted, synthesized voice echoed through the hall. Code Blue, patient Ava Reynolds. She froze, the flashlight trembling in her hand. She was an employee, not a patient, and she had never been admitted to this facility. The voice sounded like a machine trying to mimic human grief. Then, with a synchronized, mechanical groan, every room door along the hallway began to open at once. The sound of rusted hinges was a chorus of screams. Shadows shifted within the rooms, moving with a purpose that defied logic. They were dark shapes, stretching out toward her, hungry for a life that still had a heartbeat. The reality of her situation shattered. She wasn't just a witness. She was the guest of honor in a dead world. Hospital records later revealed that Sublevel 9 had been permanently sealed following a catastrophic fire in 1968. Officially, the level never existed. As Ava stared into the deepening gloom, she turned to run, only to find the elevator doors had vanished. The wall was solid, cold, and rusted. Reality here had bent into a cycle of the past, a recursive loop of suffering. Is this a haunting, or is the architecture itself trapping the echoes of the lost? The hospital keeps its secrets buried deep beneath layers of concrete and lies, and some secrets, it seems, are waiting patiently for their next appointment. Ava Reynolds was no longer a nurse. She was now part of the permanent record. Welcome to the ward that doesn't exist.